Warning, this video became more technical than I expected, for which I'm sorry. It might help for you to close your eyes and just to listen to my sweet voice the first time you watch this. The video footage and accompanying text will help to elaborate on what I say should you want more information about something. In short, this video is about why making a level and island editor helps me just as much as it helps you, and why a replay feature also helps me to test for randomness in the game. I get a bit carried away at times, so yeah, it can get confusing. You have been warned. Destruction Darius 2's gameplay remains unchanged since last time, but there's now both a level and island editor, working together so that you can easily make a campaign within minutes. And some other really cool stuff, which I'll be covering. Vroom Segway advised that I focused on making the game, rather than paying fan service, presumably by making level and island editors for players to use. But here's the thing, these features will help me more than they'll help you. They let the whole game be played on a single frame, making it easy for me to update and to change things. And it makes it easier for me to make and to store levels without complications. And it's great fan service. Really though, it's not just made my life easy, it's hacks. All the problems that I typically face later on in development are solved with this feature. Stringing levels together and updating them all with new features has been pretty much automated. I can't stress this enough. Whereas before I'd be struggling to keep everything together, I'll now cruise through game development on autopilot. The challenge of complexity will be replaced with boredom. Just in case you were wondering, I was worried about making an island editor, thinking it would be hard work. I instead made it by cloning the level editor and by changing just a few things, like where the files were saved to, removing the fire buttons, and by altering how the player moves about. Done. I made it in a single, hour-long train journey. It's amazing how little time something takes to make when you eventually stop avoiding it. Always have more than one reason for doing something. It's simple enough advice. You don't want to do something only for the reason for doing so to no longer matter. Having several reasons makes it more than worthwhile and should motivate you as you're struggling to achieve it. Which moves me onto the other big addition. I've got a replay feature. Once you've finished a level, you can choose to watch your attempt. One's also saved every time you beat a high score for a stage. It might seem like a cool but pointless feature that's distracting me from the core game, but no, it also helps me to investigate randomness. And I've discovered some fascinating things from it. With games like Destruction Darius in particular, the game is about trying different things until you find something that works. Once you do, you don't want random events to still kill you sometimes but not others, through no fault of your own. Being able to replay the exact same playthrough again has helped me to see just how much of a problem this will be for the game. And it's a mixed bag. In theory, there's no such thing as chance. A computer system, if given the same inputs every time, should deliver the same outcome. A splinter hitting a wall should bounce off the same way every time. But for some reason, it didn't. At first I blamed the built-in bouncy ball prefab that I'm sure that everybody watching will also want to blame. I replaced it with proper physics, with precise collision and infinite directions. But no, this also led to variances. When I say this, it's only because I was comparing the same replay several times. In normal play you probably wouldn't ever notice these things. I can only assume that the changes came from tiny frame timings or whatever. This would alter the exact time and direction splinters would bounce off a wall, which would then be amplified with every collision after that. There was some real butterfly effect style shit going down that ultimately ended in my character sometimes dying whilst otherwise being fine, even in the same replay. It was super deep and philosophical stuff that made me ponder my very existence, but not really something I want to be dealing with in a game about blowing stuff up. So I returned, tail between my legs, to the built-in bouncy ball movement. Sneer all you want, but its basic 32 directions and positional shortcomings actually has the potential to keep things more consistent every time. These are the reasons that I used it for controlling bomb throwing in the first game, which nobody had any problems with. At first, splinters would bounce off walls differently every time with this option, even with randomness set to 0 and security set to 100. Thanks to my replay feature, I narrowed the problem down. Most splinters were going the same way every time. The problems were splinters hitting a wall at 90 degrees head on. These would have a 50-50 chance of going slightly one way or the other. Why? You remember those old breakout games where you smash bricks at the top of the screen using a bouncing ball? Those used to be all the rage. Everybody would, at some point or another, make a clone of these. But there was one horrible problem. There was a chance that a ball could get stuck in an infinite bounce loop that you'd be powerless to stop. So the makers of Fusion 2.5 added a security feature to stop this from happening by making a ball always bounce back in a different direction from the one it came. Hence why my head-on collisions were causing problems. And that's why, to make bouncing balls better, I turned the security down to 0. Problem solved. Or not. There are still changes between identical runs, and I can't justify the amount of time and effort it would take to eliminate this completely. I don't even think I could, but I have worked to minimise variances. I can use the position of a crate to determine which direction the splinters are thrown to make it the same every time. I can do my best to ensure that either everything happens in one frame, or in one event per frame to avoid confusion. but ultimately there will be variations between otherwise identical runs. But is this a bad thing? I've seen people out there who say that it definitely is, though in the dozens of hours that I've been playing Destruction Darius, it's never bothered me too much. I've easily accepted it as part of the gameplay, even when it happens at the end of the last level when I'm attempting a speedrun. It adds an element of risk versus reward. Provided that you take precautions and hide in a gap that's just one crate's width wide, you're safe from splinters. Boulders flying through the air can be dodged by tracking their shadows. Yes, it would be nice to keep the debris the same every time, but I can't help but think that people who say that it ruins the game are blowing it completely out of proportion. Or perhaps this is me justifying a limitation with my own game. But replays still need to show the same stuff every time, and getting a replay feature into the game was surprisingly easy. 100 times a second, it records where your character is, where your crosshair is, and whether you're throwing a mine or not. That's 5 values in case you're counting, which are recorded to different rows of an array file for every frame. This array gets 100 rows longer every second. In a replay, it's the same as playing the game, only it disables your controls and instead loads the positions of your character and crosshair 100 times a second. And it works. Were it not for the pesky variances with things like splinter bounces and stuff. So as well as these basic values, it also records the position of every splinter that bounces and other things that I had trouble keeping the same every time. In the replay, splinters hitting walls are deleted instead of bounced and are hopefully immediately replaced with a newly made splinter with the correct angle and speed. And amazingly, this works as well. But just to be sure, I also recorded the player's health every frame. This means that if the replay does mess up, it would be possible for a player to be hit by a splinter and for him not to take damage because he didn't in the original playthrough. And there lies the limitation of my replay system. But you know what? I can live with that. The feature is sound and adds a lot to the game. It's not perfect, but I don't think you would have noticed the problems unless I was foolish enough to reveal it in a video like this one. A replay file was about 100 kilobytes for a minute of footage, but that's just for the basic movement. It can reach several megabytes in size, particularly big, long and messy levels. When I first made a level editor, I knew that it would change the way that I made games forever. But now I feel that the replay system is similar. It's not just a cool feature or a test for randomness, it also helps me to find and to fix bugs. Whenever I find a problem, I update the game's engine, watch the replay, and if I've managed it, bug no longer exists. Simple. It's utter hacks and clears the way for me to construct even more advanced games than ever before. And interestingly, the information I store in these replay files likely has many similarities with the information that's sent to and from your computer in multiplayer games when keeping you in sync with the server. It's cool how interlinked everything is in the world of game design. I've really enjoyed working on Destruction Darius 2 so far and have invested quite a bit of time on it this month. For now, it's all about building the foundations that when it all comes together, it's a solid and enjoyable experience with nothing to get in the way of all that destruction.